This is like the least broken down either of us has been while trying to record an episode.
Oh my gosh, I know.
I'm not gonna complain. Usually we are mostly broken, so.
Before we start, I want to give a shout out to those of you who were kind enough to leave us reviews on Apple Podcast. I really appreciate it. Yeah, and I just really appreciate it. And to the commenter who said you love us when we talk over each other, we know we're trying so hard. We get so excited about these books. But we're going to try harder not to do that. We're going to try harder not to do that. We hear you and we agree. We're going to try really hard to not talk over one another. I know it's hard to contain the excitement for the literature. But thank you so much, everyone who took the time out to leave us a review. It's greatly appreciated.
We love reviews. We love feedback. We apparently love to talk over each other, and by we I mean me, because all I do is talk over.
We both do it. We both do it. We're going to try and get better. We're trying. Thank you, though. Thank you. All right. What are you reading?
All right. So last night I started before I totally passed out because I had a little bit too much wine last night. I deserved it. I started Death in Her Hands by Otessa Moshfegh. Now, I have not very far into this. I haven't even finished the first chapter, but the first chapter is like 60 pages long. So,
one of those. Got it.
These long chapters. Only like 8 chapters in this book. Now, I did not really know anything about this other than the fact that, like, we know that I love my year of rest and relaxation.
Mm-hmm.
I read Lapona.
Mm-hmm.
And I totally enjoyed it while I was reading it. And then I closed the book and I was like, what the fuck did I read?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how I feel on Lapona, but written really well, very engaging, kept reading it. But then when it was all said and done, I was like,
yeah.
This seems like it's going to be very different. This seems like it's going to be a little bit more like a literary thriller. It's giving me sort of Drive Your Plow vibes, but like the old lady is less snarky.
Okay.
So I'm holding out some really good hope. I'll read you the back. For one of the most ceaselessly provocative literary talents, a novel of haunting metaphysical suspense about an elderly widow whose life is upturned when she finds an ominous note on a walk in the woods. Her name was Magda. Nobody will ever know who killed her. It wasn't me. Here is her dead body. But there is no dead body. Becoming obsessed with solving this mystery, our narrator imagines who Magda was and how she met her fate. Oddly, her suppositions begin to find correspondences in the real world. And with mounting excitement and dread, the fog of mystery starts to fade into menacing certainty. It's apparently supposed to be a blend of horror, suspense, and pitch black comedy.
Interesting. Are we now reading through her catalog?
We're going through her back, yes.
Okay, I'm into this for you. I'm into this.
Yes, I'm very intrigued. Like, I'm like, every time you seem to do something different.
Yeah. I'm particularly interested in when you get to reading Eileen.
I'm very curious about Eileen.
Yes.
I've heard a lot of rumblings about Eileen. Nothing specific, but everybody seems to go, ooh, Eileen. So
Yes.
I'm curious.
I'm loving this particular author journey for you. Yes.
Thank you. I'm loving it too.
All right. Well, I started Ken, I don't know, last week. I'm not very far because I'm also reading a lot of other very chunky books. This is Ken by Miljenko Jurgovic, and this is translated from the Croatian by Russell Scott Valentino. And this is a story about 3 generations, and they kind of call it an ode to Yugoslavia. It's taken us through the devastation of the First and Second World War, the Cold War, then the Bosnian War of the 1990s, through changing borders and perspectives. And so far, it is really interesting. There are some lines in here that really like kind of stop you in your tracks. For instance, one, it says, there is no sensation as overwhelming and fulfilling as hatred, and nothing other than hatred can go so quickly from being a private to a public emotion, one shared across a society. Like, stops you in your tracks, okay? Just stops you in your tracks. So I think that we're in for quite a ride.
I did
again,
read the first couple pages, and it's definitely very readable. And
it is very readable, very much so. So I'm finally, I'm happy that I finally got to start this, and I'm glad you're reading it. And I think that we're in for a real treat. I really do.
I hope so.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm intrigued.
Mm-hmm. So again, that's Ken by Mojenko Drgovic, translated from the Croatian by Russell Scott Valentino.
Oh, I'm seeing the reviews. Yes, I wish we didn't interrupt each other either. Sorry, everybody.
We're trying. We're trying. I know we have to like contain our excitement sometimes. All right. What are we talking about today? What's on the docket?
I don't remember. What are we talking about?
What's on the docket? We are talking about
something about reflections.
Yes. What we're gonna like talk about how our reading's been. What's it been this last year being a reader? What have we learned? All that good stuff. I think it's good to kind of take a beat to think about your reading year, see what's changed, see if you've discovered anything new about how and what you like to read, all those good things. I've been thinking about this quite a bit lately because some things have shifted for me. So I thought we can kind of chat about that. I'm sure a lot of other readers are also thinking about that.
What has shifted for you?
Audiobooks. Audiobooks for sure. I think that, I mean, I didn't even know what audiobooks were until 2019. I didn't listen to audiobooks. And then I started listening to them in 2020. And then I like the partnership of listening to an audiobook while reading along with the physical book. But as we talked about in the previous episode, last year I really discovered that my brain doesn't grasp what it needs to grasp when I'm listening to a book without the physical book in my hand where I can see the words.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about like a thriller or something like that. Like, you know, whatever. I could pop a thriller on and just listen to that. But that's not how the book of my reading is. I don't read a lot of thrillers. A lot of the stuff that I read requires my attention. And my brain zones out so much when I listen to audiobooks. I miss a lot of things. And it's almost like I wasted my time because I missed so much.
Yeah.
So it's better for me if I could just physically read it, whether or not there's an audiobook. That it doesn't matter. I have to physically read it. My brain just does not do well when it's things I need to actually pay attention to. Like, I cannot believe how much I miss. It's unreal. It's like, damn girl, did you even read the freaking book? I'm serious.
I think there's a lot of people who feel that way, though. I think that that's a common issue for people with audiobooks. I think you either...
I mean, is it?
Yeah.
People love the audiobooks.
Yes, but there's people that really don't, and they don't like it for that reason. They can't focus on the book.
Yeah.
So I think that it depends on how your brain processes things.
For sure, right? Because you seem to not have a problem. Like,
no, but I've also trained myself, I think, to listen to audiobooks.
Did you?
I think because I just listened to so many. I mean, I used to listen to them while I knit, and then I started listening to them while I drive, and I think that made a huge difference.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, audiobooks are great, and I love when I can find one and I can read along with it. But if there's any book that I really want to get something from, I better have the physical book because it's unbelievable. Like the things that I don't catch. Yeah, it's astounding how much I miss. Actually, it's like it's almost freaky. It feels freaky and a little alarming. Like, were you present?
You were.
Were you present? So
You
that's one
were.
thing I
You were
learned
present.
about myself. Yeah. And I think because in particular this year, I've been doing so well with reading my advanced reader copies that publishers send me. Of course, there's no
Mhm.
audiobooks for those. You have to read those physically. And I've had a much more enjoyable reading experience because I know what's happening.
Yeah.
I
I have
know
such a
what's
hard
happening.
time. I have such a hard time finding time to sit down and read that audiobooks become my saving grace.
Right. See, all those things come into play, right? Like how much time is in your day? Um, what else do you have going on? So like I never have to try to find the time to read. I think a lot of times you do. Your schedule is very all over the place.
Yeah. So
You
audiobooks
know,
fit really well into that.
yeah,
It's like just do them while I'm doing other things, and because I can pay attention to the audiobook while doing other things,
yeah,
it works really nicely.
right. I have a very cookie cutter day.
Mm.
You don't. Like
No.
my hours don't change. Like my day is what it is. It's going to be that way the next day. Like I always have time. I know what I can do. You're kind of at the whim of whatever your schedule is for the week. Not to
Hmm.
mention then you have to deal with being on call. I don't have to worry about
Yeah.
any of that stuff. Once I'm off work, I'm off work. And the rest of the night is mine.
Yeah. Not
So
always the case.
exactly, exactly. So I never have to like find time to do anything that I want to do. I can just do it. So
I
that's
think
one
the big
discovery.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that I've discovered this year is just how much I love literary fiction. Like I
Mhm.
think I had been reading it. I think when I came into the book community, I was trying to figure out where I fit because I came in like kind of as a thriller reader, and then we've discussed this enough how thrillers have kind of lost their luster
Mhm.
for me. And then you get into the book space and you're getting hit with all like the YAs and the Sarah J. Masses and the this, the that, and
Right.
the other thing. And all of that, I took all of that in. And there are pieces of things that I like. Like, I do like Sarah J. Mass. I am not like a rabid fan, but like, I do enjoy the books. Um, I don't really read as many thrillers. I still read romances from now, like, here and there.
Mhm.
But I started dabbling more in fantasy again, like as an adult, and
Yeah.
like the first thing was reigniting the love of fantasy, and then this past year, I feel like I've really gone hard into literary fiction. I think because of you, and I really I'm enjoying it a lot,
Yes.
and it's just been a really fun experience to read all these
Absolutely.
stories, and some of them have been really emotional stories, and
Mhm.
yeah, it's been a blast. I'm enjoying that.
Yeah. Yeah. I would have to say the same. When because when I came into the book community, I'm coming off of I hadn't even read fiction in over a decade, really. Maybe I
Mhm.
was sprinkling a Lower K Hamilton here and there, but like I wasn't reading fiction. I was reading other things, a lot of career focused books, just stuff for the job. And that's kind of what I was soaked into for so long. So I guess it's also why I have such like a deep thirst and hunger for the stories because there were like many, 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 many years where I didn't read any. I
Yeah.
did not read any. And so it's almost like, a kid like tasting candy for the first time and you just want it all. Um, and yes, I think I like literary fiction because I don't know, I'm a very serious person. I'm a very serious person on the inside, and I'm a deep thinker, and I like examining people's behaviors and their
Hmm.
patterns and human connection. And you get a lot of that in literary fiction, the examination of humans. I like that a lot. But I also never knew that I would fall in love with fantasy and sci fi the way that I have. I mean, I'm having
Yeah.
a blast discovering all these new to me fantasy and sci-fi authors.
Yeah.
Like the love
Yeah.
I have for the Expanse series and the Old
I
Man's
know.
War. What are
I'm
you
still
talking
scared.
about? What?
I'm still scared to finish The Expanse because it's going
I
to be
don't want to
over.
finish. I don't want it to be over.
I know.
So like that's something that is very new to me and I'm still discovering authors that appeal to me, which is very exciting. And I don't know, like I also do feel like I'm learning more and more like the kind of reader that I am, which has helped me to choose things that really jive with me.
Yeah.
So like I don't have a lot of DNFs, or you know what I mean? Because I'm able to really have a good idea of, yeah, this seems like my kind of book.
I was that way until November. I don't know what happened in November.
Nano happened.
Yeah, there was no wiggle room, I guess, when Nano was going
Yeah.
on for me to be like, well, maybe I'll read. No, I
Mm-mm.
don't like you. We're done. We're
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Get out of my house.
Exactly.
Was there
Exactly.
an author that you are sort of surprised that you've fallen for this year?
Probably John Scalzi or I don't know how you say his name. John Scalzi, that sci-fi writer.
Hmm.
Um, he ain't new. He's very established, very popular in the sci-fi scene, and I just did not think that I would fall so hard for him. But we are besties now. We are besties. Like I'm halfway through the old man's war series. I picked up another series of his. Like I'm in deep with him. I'm in deep. Yeah. So that was a surprise. You know what I mean? That was a surprise. A good surprise. What about you?
I would say maybe this obsession with Virginia Woolf has been solidified
Mm,
this year. Like I usually read Mrs. Dalloway at least once a year, just because it's it's just such a there's so much in that book,
yeah.
and um it's so like expertly done, and I kind of check out while reading it because stream of consciousness is something that's very
Mm,
hard for me to read because of like my own brain and how my own brain works. It seems to trigger my own brain to start having like lots of weird thoughts. So it's like a really
oh, that's so
interesting
interesting.
kind of like thing to try to make my brain do to read stream of consciousness. And so I feel like every time I read this, I hone in on a different part of this story. And structurally, it's just very interesting because it's
Yeah.
it's it's like a very brief period of time that story is taking place over, and it's all leading up to a dinner, and there's so many things that get unraveled in this very short it's so like the craft of the book is just very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And so going down and diving deeper into her other books like late last year and into this year has just been such a pleasure to realize how much I really enjoy her
Yeah.
as an author. And I'm like in awe a little bit of how she crafts words together to just make these really emotive and beautiful sentences. And it's just,
Yeah.
I really like her.
Yeah. I think you and I have both found authors where it's like, okay, gonna read everything they've ever written. Like we're just totally invested.
Hmm.
Um, I don't think I need to tell anyone that I am completely obsessed with Mieko Kawakami and Elena Ferrante. I think everyone
Hmm.
knows that by now. I read Kawakami's latest book, All the Lovers in the Night, when it first came out, and I'm still thinking about it. I read the entire Neapolitan novels in August. I'm still thinking about it. Like they never leave me. They
Hmm.
never leave me. The only sad thing with Kawakami is there's nothing to catch up on. I've read
Yeah.
everything, right?
Yeah.
At least with Ferrante, I have like 4 other books that I can read. But that's the great tragedy when you find this author that you connect with so strongly, and they don't have like a huge backlist for you to consume. So I'm taking my time with Ferrante. I only have
Is
4
there
books
some,
left.
is there somebody who disappointed you?
Do we need to go down the Cherish Farrow Road again? Maybe I shouldn't use
Ah,
that book. Maybe here's why I probably should stop using that book, because number one, it's young adult. So that's already going to be like, I could be in or out with it. Um, so maybe I should stop using that book. There,
I
I
don't
don't think,
know. I don't know if I've seen a lot of really good things about Bethany Morrow.
I don't, you know what? I don't know if she is an author that's really caught on yet.
Hmm.
What does she have? 3 books? She's got the mermaid one.
That I'm aware. No, four. I think
Oh,
they're the
4.
follow up to the song "Bowl of Water" or whatever it's called,
Okay, so 2 of those, and then the one that I read, Cherish Farah, and
and
then
then the
that
Little Women book.
Right. But like we all have our own pockets of our book communities, right? So maybe in my community, people just aren't talking about it because they're not reading her, but maybe in other communities they are. So I don't want to make the assumption that no one's talking about her and no one's like really down for Bethany C. Morrow, because they very well could be. But in my sphere of bookish people, that is a name that does not come up.
Agreed.
So I don't have any idea of how people are digging her and her work. I don't know. All I know is I read Cherish Farah, and that book still makes me angry when I think about it. That's all I know. I'm trying to think, is there another book that I read this year that was like an absolute no? And I just can't. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so. There was one that I was really confused by, and I don't know how to feel about it, but it wasn't a terrible book. I don't think so. I really have to think about that one. What about you?
Book of Jacob.
Oh, I'm gonna read that one again. I'm gonna read it again one day.
No,
not next year.
I said screw.
Oh, you did. You were like, screw it.
Like, get the hell. I don't even want you tainting my shelves. Get out of here. Like, I couldn't. How do you write an orgy and make me snore fast? Like, I don't get. I don't get. And like, it was just, I don't know, man. That was not the book for me. If you like the Book of Jacob, because apparently people really liked it, it won freaking awards.
Did it win awards, or was it just nominated a lot?
I don't know. People seem to really like the Book of Jacob. It was definitely shortlisted for the International Booker.
I mean, it was. And like,
it was. No.
Yeah. Oh, there was The Troop. This book that I've had on my shelf for a while that everyone talks about, that everyone said like, oh, it's so this and so that. And I finally read that book and I was like, this book is mediocre at best.
That reminds me, I have to read it to see where I fall.
Yeah, like I wasn't like freaked out or scared, or there was nothing like really exciting or horrific. That it was just very, very mediocre. So needless to say, I won't be reading any more books written by Nick Cutter, and I am going to be trading that one in at McKay. I probably already did. Yeah, I did. I traded it in already. There's just nothing there for me. So, and that one is held as like, oh, if you're going to read horror, oh, you better read The Troop.
I don't know. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out what I like in horror. That's still something that I'm working on.
Same.
And I've been doing that since Nosferatu, I think. And we all know how Nosferatu went for me.
Yep.
And like, I think reading Dead Inside taught me that like a lot of horror is, or there's a lot of horror books that are horror because they're just kind of like gratuitously, like, I don't know, violent or like offensive.
The equivalent of a slasher film.
Yeah, and I don't enjoy that. Like, that's not scary to me. That's not, that just makes me uncomfortable, and I don't want to read it. And like, I think I know that what I like is more atmospheric and gothic.
Yes.
So I need to hone in more in that space. And there is so much in the horror space that like, that's kind of one of the things that's like an ongoing project, is figuring out all the things that I do and don't like in horror so that I can know what I want to read in that genre. Because I do really enjoy it when I find one that I like, but and I feel like that's like the next place for me to go from thrillers, because, you know, I need more oomph for my jaded soul.
For sure.
So I think horror is the next space to go to, and I just need to figure out what that looks like for me to enjoy.
I'm with you on that, because every time I'm in the horror section at McKay, first of all, I feel so lost. You know what I mean? Like, all of the authors except one or two are completely unfamiliar to me. So like, I don't have a gauge. I don't have a gauge. Right. I don't have a gauge for horror on any level. It's always a guessing game for me. So I need to really start following like serious, hardcore horror booktubers to really get like an introduction to what's available in the horror genre, and then go from there. Speaking of horror, I want us to read Orpheus Builds a Girl. Orpheus Builds a Girl. I will send it to you in our little in our chat, but that is a horror book that I think is probably right up our alley. Orpheus Builds a Girl. Check and check. So,
oh, sorry, I was just typing and I didn't want you to get mad at me in editing. I did Books and Bow talk about this recently. I think I have this on a list somewhere. This one does sound really good.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Books and Bow talked about it, and I immediately said, "That's for me and Alyssa." Off the break, I said that. That's for me and Alyssa. That's our book right there. It's weird. It sounds bonkers, and I think that's going to be right up our alley.
I like weird and bonkers.
Exactly.
Weird and bonkers. Yeah, yeah.
So here's something else I've been considering as a reader and my reviews and things. I need to get better at writing reviews, but I feel like I want to stop rating books.
A lot of people get to that point, I feel like, because the system is sort of arbitrary, right?
I just don't see the point. I don't see the point. Either I liked it or I didn't.
I think if you're using something like Cawpile, where you're breaking it down by like such very specific things like characters and atmosphere, world building, and all these things, then the rating system, I guess, makes sense because you're giving it structure and like a reason. So there's a reason why book A is 3 stars or whatever, 3.75 or whatever, but then the next book is like 3.5. And when you look at the breakdown, you get that, right? You understand that there's something was missing in this category and it's a little bit more analytical. But when I don't do that, I tried to do that for a while, but I read too many books and I just write reviews. And I wish that like if somebody could put Cawpile like into say Storygraph, that would be really cool for you to integrate that into there, and I could rate all of the different pieces and it could generate a rating for me. But if I have to give it a rating, it's like everything is either like 1 or 2, 3 if I can't decide, 4 or 5. And I know that those are your only options is 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5.
Right.
So I know that sounds stupid, but it's like it's not hard for me. I liked it. It's 4 or 5. I don't know what I'm doing. It just feels really arbitrary. So like me saying a book is 3 stars, like I made Glory 3 stars because I hated Glory, but like I understood that it is a good book. It's just I couldn't connect with it. So down the middle, 3 stars. Okay, fine. But what does that mean? Like, does that
what I'm saying.
Anything? Do I rate it that I hated it and it's a 1-star read? Do I rate it based on how I understand the book to fit into like the whole?
But I guess my thing is like, even if you did the Cawpile system or whatever it's called, but like, who am I doing it for?
Other readers. I think the only reason why that's there is because it's easier to quantify whether or not a book is worth reading if it's done numerically in some way. So when you go and you look up reviews, I know it's all really subjective.
It's still subjective. Like I may think it's worth reading, and my Cawpile number may reiterate that. Doesn't mean it's going to work for anybody else who's interested in that very same thing. I don't know. I think that when the new year starts, I think I'm not doing any ratings. Now, this is the one downside of Bookly, because when you finish, like, you have to rate it.
Yeah.
I wish there was a thing where you could just not rate it and just finish it. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I don't care. I just put something in there. And sometimes I put stuff in Storygraph. I don't care about that so much. When it comes to reviews, I think what I just want to, I don't write a lot of reviews. I think what I really want to do is more of these individual book videos. I've been enjoying making those. These sort of like rambly, just like thought dumps on a book when I finish it and how much I like it or don't like it. And I want to keep doing those because it's kind of nice to have something to go back to and like I don't know. I feel like I get more personality and more feeling when I do it video wise and not
I've been doing that
looking at.
here. If you notice, like I just take a
Mhm.
clip from here and I post that on Instagram. That's my review because we recommend books on here all the time.
Yeah.
So that's just I'm just thinking about like how I want to talk about books with the communities that I'm in going forward because in my wrap ups I do break them down by rating, and I'm not
Yeah.
going to be doing that in the new year. I just don't want to rate books anymore.
I don't think I pay attention to the numbers that much anymore. Other than like going on when I'm specifically looking at a book on Storygraph, because we know I don't go on Goodreads anymore because it's offensive to my eyeballs. Um, I if I'm uncertain about a book, if I'm
Hmm.
reading a book and I'm like, what the hell am I reading? I will go look it up and I'll see what other people are seeing. And sometimes I'm just floored because I'm like,
Mm,
four, what? And then I'll dig a
right,
little deeper. Um, and sometimes it's the opposite where I'm like, oh my God, I really love this book and I want to see what other people are thinking because I'm going to put together, my thoughts for a review. And I go and I'll look and I'll be like, how did everybody not love this? So
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
those are really the only times I'm looking at. They're not deciding whether or not I read the book. They're
Right,
they're after the fact or in the middle of the fact, looking at it and then getting some piece of information sort of through that.
right,
Get
right.
rid of them. I don't think you need them.
Yeah, I don't feel like I do, and so that's going to be it for me on the ratings. So
I think that's fair.
yeah, always trying to figure out how to make sure that I'm reading and talking about books in a way that feels true to me. And I think those things are probably always changing and shifting. And it's important to kind of like, just sit back and kind of think about what you want to do differently and what you want to keep doing. And
Hmm.
so that you stay fulfilled in this whole thing of talking about books and reading books and sharing your thoughts with the people that you follow. So, and if it's something that no one else is doing, it doesn't matter if it feels right to you, just do it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I really want to keep doing the videos. I think in the beginning, I think I did like one or two book reviews early on in BookTube, and like they kind of flopped. And the things that people wanted to see were like me hauling books and unhauling books and opening book boxes. And like I
Yeah,
like doing that, but they're not my favorite things. And the standard YouTube videos, like doing um, like a TBR or a wrap up, those I just don't feel like are as evergreen as just doing a standalone book review. So it's
mm-hmm,
more like a long game. Like, sure, I can film an unhaul and get a whole bunch of views, or I can film a book review and slowly over time, as people keep going back to it, because you're going to be reading books at different points in time. Not everybody's reading
absolutely.
that book today. There's going to be like a slow accumulation of views and stuff like that. So I don't know. And I just like it. I like that was the point of having a booktube channel, was to talk to people about books.
Exactly.
And especially now that we're going to be separating TBR Lowdown from my channel,
Right.
I feel like it's easier for me to talk about books there and also talk about them here and have it not
Mm-hmm.
feel so duplicative because
Mm-hmm.
they're going to be living in different homes. So
Exactly.
that's definitely one of the things I want to keep doing for the new year, because I find I am enjoying my reading experience better doing that, and also I remember my books better after I sit down and I tell you guys about them. And
Right.
that's the point, was to have a place to talk about books. So why am I not sitting down and talking to you about the actual books
Exactly.
I've read as opposed to just books I want to read or
Right.
books I
Exactly.
received?
I mean, look, you know me, I love a good haul video.
Yeah.
But again, my brain, I'm always wanting to see what other people are reading in
Hmm.
hopes that it's something that I've never heard of before and that makes me want to read it too. Like books
Yeah.
discovery is important and it's exciting, you know?
Yeah. But sometimes you have these books like where you want to hear what other people have to say about them. Like you really hated the book and you need to see what everybody else is
Oh
saying.
yeah.
And so you go down a bit of a rabbit hole and you watch a bunch of reviews. Or like we're researching for an author interview. I will, watch a bunch of videos of interviews, but I'll also watch videos on people reading the book perhaps that
Right.
we've been reading for that month or whatever it is. And I just feel like I just feel like that it's in the long term, that content I'm going to find more enjoyable making. People are going to keep relating back to it over time. And it's, it's just something that is totally like, it's the time for me to really get
Mm-hmm.
set up. So,
Yeah, because see, at the end of the day, if you're not enjoying what you're filming, we, the audience, are gonna feel that.
yeah,
We're
like
gonna
I love,
see it.
yeah. And I love doing vlogs and stuff, but lots of people don't want to watch a 40-minute vlog.
That would be just me, folks. Me, I love when she does a 40 to an hour long vlog. I'm just kind of like, yes, what are you doing?
The
I
one
love it.
going up
But
next,
I'm that person.
the one
I'm
going
that
up
person.
next was 3 hours, and I whittled it down to like 50 minutes. And that was,
Oh,
while I was doing that, I was like, Naomi would be so happy with a 3 hour vlog.
I would, and I would freaking watch it from
I put
beginning to
music
end.
in, she'd be so happy.
But I'm that person. I like long form video.
Mhm.
That's I enjoy that. The people that I follow, if I like get in there and I see like there's a video for like 45 minutes, I am like so in it. I love long form video. I know we're all
Yeah,
in the short form, we got the reels of TikToks, but like what my jam is for people that I follow, I love when they give me long form.
yeah,
Because you can just really get in there, just give me all the good stuff, you know?
yeah. It makes an interesting thing though for the algorithm because of watch times and like what gets recommended and
Yeah.
like in the whole YouTube algorithm is very bizarre.
Right. Right.
Especially now with shorts, like I don't know how much that affects things because like that's only a minute and does it affect your watch time? I don't know. It's all very complicated. I clearly am not a master of the YouTubes. I'm just I'm a little guy. Just
Well, as a reader, who likes to consume a lot of video content, um, out of all the places that offer a creator to create video, YouTube is still my favorite.
yes.
That's my favorite
I
place to go to watch people talk about books. Hands
yes.
down.
Agreed.
Hands down. Yes. Yes. So
Yeah.
here's something else. So some of you may know we have a year-long reading challenge called 12 Women, 12 Countries. We're wrapping up this year's, and of course, the new one starts January 1st, 2023. Now, in my early day of Bookstagram, I thought I was going to be one of those reading challenge girlies because there's so many challenges, right? There's like the Pop Sugar Challenge, there's this challenge, that challenge. And what I realized is I don't like scavenger hunt type challenges where read a book that has a bike on the cover, or um, read a book where the title starts with W. Like that is very uninspiring to me. It's very boring to me. It feels frivolous to me. But a lot of people like those.
Yeah.
I'm more or less like the challenge we created where it's like it's a purpose. And the purpose is very much connected in with what I desire to read,
Mm-hmm.
which is reading more translated works. So that's what I also discovered about myself. I don't like those scavenger hunt type of challenges. And it needs to be a challenge that aligns with what I desire to read in general.
I agree.
Yeah.
I
So,
agree wholeheartedly with that.
yeah. So that being
And
said, make sure you check out our challenge, 12 Women, 12 Countries.
yeah, I love that challenge, and that was a brilliant idea of yours to start that. And I mean, I have lost count. I've obviously read more than 12 books from 12
Yeah.
events from 12 countries, but I have just it was just fun. I mean, I was gonna probably read those books anyway, but it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
nice to stop and like add it to your little graphic and share it online. And it
Yeah.
was nice to see that there were people that were really really latched
Yes.
onto it and really enjoyed the whole challenge. So I'm excited to be doing that again next year, and I'm
Me
excited
too.
to just be doing more translated reading next year. I
Yes.
think that that's something you're going to see coming from us a bit more in
Mm-hmm.
2023 is more translated lit. I feel like the last 2 years or so have been like, is it 2 years? 2 seasons
2
have been
seasons. Mm-hmm.
just kind of us finding our footing. And I think our footing is really in translated lit. I mean, obviously, we want you guys to read as diversely as possible, and that means a lot of things, including
Mm-hmm.
translated lit. But that's the thing that I think together we both
Yes.
really love.
And yes,
Um, so that's going to be a big core of TBR Lowdown
it
with a
is.
lot of other things mixed in.
It is. We're going to be going live in the next couple of weeks to really talk about some of our plans going forward for TBR Lowdown. So we'll make sure that we announce that in our newsletter, on the Instagram when we pick a date for that, so that you can kind of understand with a shift that we're going to be making and get on board with what TBR Lowdown will be doing in 2023.
Yes.
So
So, do you have anything else, or do you want to wrap this one up?
I only have one thing to say, and I'm saying it because I see this all the time on Instagram and Facebook. Okay. So y'all don't get all in your feelings about this. I'm going to say that it's okay not to set a number for a reading goal. And I'm saying that because I see y'all on the Instagram and on the Facebook stressing the hell out because you haven't met these goals. You don't have to set one. You can free yourself from this unnecessary stress. Because y'all are on here like, oh, it's October and I made this goal to whatever number of books. I've only hit this. I mean, y'all are stressing. And I'm just saying to you all, it is okay to set that number to 1 or not set it at all. It's okay. Free yourself from this agony because I feel it. When I see you all posting these things on Facebook and Instagram, I feel your agony and your stress. Free yourself. It is okay. No one's going to judge you. It's okay not to set a number.
Yeah, I feel like there's other things that you can do. You know what, actually, and I should have shared this. I don't know if I shared this with you. Remember I made that 75 hard challenge?
Yes, I do.
I feel like we should do together in
Should we?
2023.
Okay,
As
let's
a
do it.
side note.
Okay.
Somebody on YouTube who has a little Discord, in their Discord group, did it together with a whole group of people and then posted like a whole video of like like a rundown of how it went. And it made me so proud because they got
Wow.
through a lot of books, they got through a lot of their arcs and their neck alley, they did stuff, they moved their body a little bit, and like they really enjoyed it. It made me happy. And like those are the kinds of reading
Oh,
goals that I think, like, if you're the kind of person that makes a Goodreads goal and then it's like November and you're like crying on the internet because you're like, I'm never going to get to the number, whatever the number is, the numbers are irrelevant. Maybe instead your goals should be about like making a habit, not like hitting a number. Like, I'm going to
ooh,
make
good
a
one.
habit of like reading. I have why I love my Bookly is because it makes me read every day. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of the reason why I read so much. There's more to it than the Bookly, but like a big part of it is I read for 30 minutes minimum every day, period. And I have I have like almost like 1,100 day streak of
Mm-hmm.
reading for at least 30 minutes every day. And that, for me at least, is I'm way more impressed with that goal
Yeah.
than the hitting my arbitrary number of books that I'm going to read in the year. Yes, it's really high. I read a lot. I don't do a lot of other things. Is it going to go down next year? Yes, because I want to focus more on writing. Do I
Yeah.
care? No, because it's not an important thing. Like, as long as that habit remains consistent, then I'm happy. So
Right.
I would encourage you to switch from a quantity based goal to a habit building goal for 2023 and see if you have a better response by the end of the year.
And
Like,
stop stressing about reading slumps.
mhm.
I don't believe in reading slumps. I don't use that term. I still don't understand what that means. I just don't believe in those. I just feel like when I don't feel like reading, it's because I want to do something else. And
Yeah,
so I just do that other thing. And
yeah.
it's not like some big existential crisis on why I don't feel like reading. I just don't feel like reading. You know what I mean? And I'm like, you are very dedicated to reading every day. Well, you know me, I will go 4 days and not read a thing because I'm watching my shows. I love my shows as much as I love my books. And I will be in like the TV hole for like a week without, and I won't feel bad about it because that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Maybe other people consider that a slump. I just consider that I want to do something else. And so I go do that
Something
other
else.
thing.
Yeah.
And when I feel like reading again, I read again. So I'm also going to say, when you don't feel like reading, just don't read. Like, figure out what it is that you want to actually be doing and then do that thing. The books are not going anywhere.
And maybe it's just as simple as just stop reading whatever book you're reading and find something else.
Right. Or go watch a show or go touch some grass or I don't know. Like, I feel like the internet has somehow made reading very weird and put like unnecessary pressures out there. Like, y'all are really stressing when you all don't want to read. It is okay if you don't feel like reading. You can do other things or you can not do anything. It is okay. Like, I feel like no one ever even used the term reader slump until they were on the internet. I never heard that term before ever in my life until I joined Bookstagram.
Yeah, I mean, the reading every day thing is a habit and a goal that I really like to maintain. So it's really big for me to keep that. But I will literally read for 30 minutes on a day I don't really want to read.
Right.
And that's it. And then I go do other things. And I'm like, okay, I did my habit. Yeah, I'm still enjoying the book I'm reading, but I'm just not really like, I'm not terribly into it, but I've made some progress. And then I go about my life.
Right.
And I don't care. I don't feel any sort of way about anything.
Right. Exactly. So my ending message of this episode is, my PSA is, stop sweating the small stuff and free yourself from this unnecessary internet reader pressure you have added to your life. Free yourself.
Free your mind.
And that's going to wrap it up for us with this episode. Let us know what you've learned about yourself as a reader this year. Let us know if there are anything you want to change. Let us know what you've discovered about yourself. And let's all talk about it in the comments on Instagram. Follow us at TBR Lowdown. And again, free yourself. And we're going to...
recommendation?
Oh, we are not done, huh?
You were getting ready to leave. You were getting ready to... I'm like, I'll listen to her. She's doing an outro, guys.
I was getting ready to leave you all without a recommendation. I'm so sorry. Listen, I've got a great one. I finished.
Better after that.
I know. I did finish The Talented Mr. Ripley by Patricia Highsmith. This is the first book in the Ripley series. I do have the rest of the books. But what I want to say is, this is perfection. And what I also want to say is, I'm going to read it again.
Okay.
So Tom Ripley, he is quite a character. And this is why I want to read it again. I want to dig deeper into Tom. So we first meet Tom. He's at a bar and he realizes someone is following him. And it's the father of a young man that he's met before. And this father is seeking out Tom to try to convince Tom to basically go to where his son is, which is over in Spain, Italy, somewhere like that, Italy, so that he can convince his son to come home and tend to family business, right? Now, Tom and this gentleman aren't really friends. They've crossed paths before, but the likelihood that this guy will remember Tom is very unlikely. But this father is offering him basically a full ride to go there. Like, you're going to be given a stipend and you don't have to worry about anything while you go. So Tom, who's kind of like, doesn't really have a great job. He's not of wealth. He's like, well, this is a great opportunity for me to get some cash, spend some time abroad and not have to worry about anything and maybe like figure out what I want to do with my life. So he gets over there. He hooks up with this, the guy that this father's looking for. And when I tell you, things go so incredibly wrong and things get so bananas so fast. Like, I don't even know, like, what in the world just happened. It's like someone flipped the switch and we just got into crazy town on like every level. Tom is a very smart guy. Tom is very manipulative. Tom desires a life of wealth. very much so. Tom envies people in his circle who are of wealth. He is very much wanting what the neighbor has, desiring what the neighbor has, and is in a situation where he's willing to do anything to get what the neighbor has. And the web that this man builds for himself is so astonishing.
Mm-hmm.
He's a clever character. He's a snob. He is a bit arrogant. He is murderous. He's a lot of things. I mean, like, you just have to read it again to dig more into Tom's psyche. But where this left off, I can't wait to continue to book 2, but I just need to read this one more time because this is a real character study of a very particular individual. And I just think if you've never read this, you really, really should. I mean, Tom just sticks his foot in it every step of the way. It's like you're doing these actions because you want a certain thing, but at the same time, you're also making things so much more worse for yourself, and you don't even see it. It got crazy. This was a ride, honey. This was a ride. The Talented Mr. Ripley by Patricia Highsmith.
It's on the book hunt list.
I hope she's there because I would grab it. I just think that Tom will blow your mind, and the way this is written is just, this is one of those like, it's just such a delicious story. It's just, it's so good. It's so good.
Well,
read it.
Read it. I have a book that I'm not sure if I've ever recommended it itself to you guys, but I know I've recommended it about 1,000 times, and that is Rules of Civility by Amor Towles. Like, one of my favorite authors, first book they ever wrote, and the one that sealed the deal. Like, from book one, I was like, auto-buy, favorite author, all of that. And if for some reason you've never read this, you're going to have to. So this is on the last night of 1937, 25-year-old Katie Content is in a second-rate Greenwich Village jazz bar when Tinker Gray, a handsome banker, happens to sit at the neighboring table. This chance encounter and its startling consequences propel her on a year-long journey toward the upper echelons of New York society, where she will have little to rely upon other than a bracing wit and her own brand of cool nerve. It is a beautiful exploration of just people, but also the way it portrays old New York made me nostalgic for something I've never had. There is we all know that I have like an absolute love affair with books set in New York City. And there's just something about the beast that is New York, about thinking about all the iterations of New York that have ever existed and how many will never exist again. And to have things that capture moments of a thing that was so fleeting, like a moment in time in a city that's constantly growing and changing, is it's just wonderful. And what it says about like morality and wealth and all of that, it's a truly phenomenal story.
Yes,
and if for some reason you haven't read it, you have to read it. And that's it. I love it.
It is because of you that I read Amor Towles, and I read it in order. I read Rules of Civility, and then I read A Gentleman in Moscow, and then I read The Lincoln Highway. They were all excellent. They were, I mean, I think I read them in like a month.
Yeah.
One after the so well written.
I'm going to say something that's going to sound really like outrageous, and I'm sure somebody's going to like throw a table, but he reminds me a bit of like a Steinbeck in terms of the way that he writes and the way that he writes about America. And it's not that he like is exactly like Steinbeck, but there's just something about
Steinbeck.
There's something about him that like harkens back to a Steinbeck for me. And I don't know. I just find him really interesting. And he's actually super nice too, if you want to talk to him online and stuff. He's really nice.
He's a phenomenal writer. And I'm so glad that you encouraged me to pick up his stuff, because I would have been really missing out.
Yeah. He's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Just read all of his stuff. Read all his stuff. So he only has 3 books, or we're missing
Yeah.
some?
No, he only has 3 so far. There is like
Oh.
a short story, I think that I know he emailed me a short story once, but I don't know if that's like for the newsletter or like just because we were sort of briefly talking online or something. But anyway, as published works go, actually, no, I think you can buy that little short story or novella bound up at certain places. I think
Okay.
Shakespeare and Co. had it when I was there like a year ago.
Yeah.
So I think there are, I can't remember what it's called, and that I have not read yet. It's like getting a Mrs. Ice sandwich or something like that.
Right. Right.
So, but really, no, it's just the 3 major works. And then I don't know what he's coming out with next, but I'm sure he's coming out with something. I mean, he didn't start writing until he was like well into like his 40s, I think.
That's
Um,
incredible. I love when I hear
because
those kind of stories.
he was an investment banker or something like that
Oh, that's
for
right. You were telling us that
yeah,
before in another episode. That's right.
yeah. And then he was writing on the side, and then I don't know, he might not have been.
Wow.
He was in finance. So he's
Incredible.
actually like, he now has the luxury of time to write. It's between finance and being successful as an author. He's got the ability to just write.
I'm excited. Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, pick him up. I'm just gonna say, go ahead and get all 3 of his books, because you're gonna read one, and you're gonna want to read the next one, and then the next one. So just
And
go ahead and get all 3.
they're all very different. I will say, okay, so like A Gentleman in Moscow doesn't really talk to you about America very much, but the other 2 just really feel very Steinbeck-esque,
Mm-hmm.
especially
That last
especially
one.
the Lincoln Highway.
Yeah.
But I love what he does, and they're all sort of different. He
Mm-hmm.
uses narrative structure just a little bit differently, um, and not in like a crazy way, like you might see on like a Booker Prize or something like that. He
Yeah.
just tweaks the narrative structure just enough to give it something extra. So
Yeah.
I think he's approachable, I guess is what I'm saying.
Very much so. I would have to agree. I would have to agree.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Now that does it for us. Now we're done. Now we can check out. Okay. Now we're signing off. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.